Trung, thanks so
Hi,
much
everyone.
for giving us your presence and your time.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. Bit nervous, but I'm sure once we get into it, it'll be cool.
What was your first breakthrough experience and what did it mean to you?
Do you mean like attending the breakthrough experience?
Yeah. What was your
Yeah,
first
okay.
exposure to the work?
So Bright's my wife, and she had broken up with me in 2019 halfway, and I was quite like emo about it, like upset about it. And then I was like upset about it for a couple months, and then I had a couple of friends, two friends that came and stayed with me in 2020 in January. And by the end of the 2 weeks that they stayed with me, I opened up to her about being upset about Bright breaking up with me. And she's a Demartini student. And what she ended up asking me was what Bright's values were, what my values were, and then what's the downside to me if I date her, if we continue to date. And when that happened, it's like I went from being sad and depressed about her to totally relieved about it. And I'm just thinking in my mind, like, what just happened? So I asked her more about it, and she then sent me John's link. And I saw that he did a breakthrough experience online in May 2020. So me and a group of friends decided to just like buy it and attend it in like my neighbor's house next door. And during that period, I I didn't I didn't do any of the work during the breakthrough experience. It was just more about listening to the concepts. And it really resonated with me because he starts talking about depression. And at that time, I was also on antidepressants. And most of my 20s, I would be like on and off or like with like drugs or whatever it was to try to manage that. So when he started talking about it, it just resonated about where the depression is coming from. So from there, I'm just more curious about what's going on in my mind. So that's like the first exposure or breakthrough experience. Now I didn't do the work, and then a couple months later, I decided to do another breakthrough experience online. And this time I brought my ex, or I brought my wife, Bright, and we wanted to work some things out. But I also had a group of friends sitting here doing it with me, and we also didn't do the work. So I'm just basically like just intellectualizing a lot of this, but not actually doing the work myself until it was probably that August or September where she breaks up with me again. And she literally says to me, "You haven't changed. Like you haven't changed yet. Like it's still the same." And so when that happened, I remember jumping on the call the next day with my coach at the time named Curtis. And I had started working with him a couple of sessions already to work on like drug addiction. And when I worked on it in the morning with him, it was with Bright on her breaking up with me the night before. And when that happened, within like 2, 3 hours, I was again just like the breakthrough happened. I was relieved about it and just like, wow, I'm grateful that this whole piece played out. And from that moment, I was like, okay, well, what happens if I put more time, more money, more effort into learning how to work through my perceptions and really mastering this tool? Because for me, it's if I master this, then I can do anything in my external life. Well, that's the thinking process at that time. Like, if I get this right, it's the source of everything. So if I get this right, what can I create and do in my life? So that's where it started.
Okay, so then you're working at this point, Bright is still your ex at
Yep.
this first and second online breakthrough. And why
Yep.
weren't you doing any of the work?
I think so. It was from May until August, it was more intellectualizing the work because I
Yeah.
haven't had the experience of what a breakthrough actually looks like with the tears, and I didn't know what to expect. So it was more just like intellectualizing it. It's like, okay, there's downsides and pros and cons to everything, and how he expresses morality, how there's both sides, and all that. That resonates with a lot of things I've just looked at and read in the past. But in
Okay,
terms of having that full on like that breakthrough with tears, didn't know what that was, didn't know what to expect.
got it. So you're just like expanding your mind with the philosophy and
Yes.
understanding. And so then when was your first big, like that cathartic breakthrough experience or just gamma ray burst?
Um, I worked a lot with Curtis in 2020, September, October, all the way until probably May 2021. And at one point, I just I wanted to dedicate as much time and energy as I could. So I was really polarized, right? I was on antidepressants most of my life, and I was diagnosed with like general anxiety. I did a lot of drugs from the age of 16, like ecstasy, meth, things like this. And then when I came to Thailand, I did well, but then the drugs started coming back in, like the ketamine, the mushrooms, things like that. And then crypto goes up, so I'm also experiencing like this kind of high with crypto. So managing my emotion and having my log having that logic was a little bit off. So I spent about 3 hours a day almost to with Curtis, like 4 or 5 days a week for a solid like 6 months, and we're just balancing perceptions and trying to like equilibrate. And the big pieces were starting with my parents. Um, when I first started with my dad and my mom, I probably had like seven resentments and one side A on my dad, is how he managed money, where we come from, things like that, and chipping away. I was chipping away at that with Curtis throughout that period. But the really big cathartic one that I remember really well is probably 2022. I had lost a lot of money in crypto. And so I had lost about like $18 million in crypto. And I'm in the States at the time. And before this, me and Bright are about to break up. We're literally about to break up. We're fighting with each other, we're arguing with each other. And then we end up going to this trip in the States. And it started to turn out pretty well. We were going okay with it. And then I was working with Perry, another facilitator at the time. And up until this point, I haven't done much of my own collapses. It's just been me working with different coaches. But then I had this realization that no one's going to care about my own collapses as much as I can. And I'm going to spend way more money if I don't learn how to do this myself. So she set me off with the loss of the money, which was, what does that represent to me? And in my mind, it was like when I was sitting down thinking about it, it's like, okay, well, that money represented freedom. It represented uh, allowing me to like buy what I want, to eat what I want, the freedom to do what I want kind of thing. And so I was doing like side C on that, but it wasn't really hitting me until I was walking in Yosemite, which is a national park. And I remember walking around one of the lakes in the evening, and this memory of my ex's family pops up. And what I love about the work is just like to explore what kind of memory pops in. I didn't know why it popped up at the time, but I'm like, there's no way this person would have just popped in out of nowhere about this money. So I sit by the bench and I start thinking about like, why did this person pop up? And I then remember that. So I used to perceive that that family used to judge me a lot for like, I didn't have money. I came from like pretty, like my perception at the time, pretty poor background, all this type of stuff. And I remember a moment where I asked her, I'm like, oh, do you think your cousin has about like $18 million? And she said yes. And I remember thinking that that's the standard that I'm going to have and I want to keep to have that number in my mind. And then I started thinking about, well, what did I admire about him? It was his dad had a business. He got a really nice car from his dad, good looking, sociable, all these things. So then I ended up doing a collapse on that. What was the benefit of where I came from? That my dad not having a nice car. Um, if my dad had a business, what would be the downsides in my life? And the next day, I'm driving from Yosemite down to like Monterey, which is like the West Coast. And I remember just finally making that causal link in my mind that if I had, if my dad had a business and all that, I wouldn't have had the void to want to escape Melbourne and then do online marketing in 2009 or 2010 or 2009, which is what set me off into like this entrepreneur track. So when I made that connection, I remember just like having tears and I pull over on the side of the road and I just had this cathartic breakthrough.
Mm.
And that's probably the first moment in my life where it's like I'm grateful for where I come from and I'm grateful for what my dad had and what my mum had. Because before that, I was more like judging them for all that. And then my dad pops up in my mind, my mum pops up in my mind. And I remember like my wife, she pops up in my mind, but she wasn't my wife yet. We were going to break up, but she pops up and I see like a baby. And in that moment, it was that certainty that this is my wife and I'm going to marry her. And then from that moment until now, I've been working towards that. And and now we got married last year. But that was like a full like cathartic breakthrough for like 45 minutes. You know, and that changed my relationship with my parents because I live in Thailand and I talked to my mum and dad before this, maybe 10 minutes a month, and it was a chore. It's an obligation to talk to my parents. When I talk to them, it's like 5 minutes, like, yeah, I'm fine, it's okay. And I'd hang up. But ever since then, I speak to them almost every single day, and it's been like 3, 4 years now. So, and our relationship
Wow.
changed, the relationship with my wife changed. So many breakthroughs came from that as well. Yeah.
Wow. Shivers. I was feeling the shivers when you were telling me that, especially when you saw your wife and the child in that vision, it all culminating in that vision. Um, so the whole meaning of that or the apparent loss of 18 million, what was then the inspiring, or what meaning came of that for you?
So like one, the relationship with my wife, that built the relationship because I had this, I had this, because in my past with my exes, I would be talking to other women, I'd be sleeping with other women with my exes, right? And once I had that breakthrough, I realized if I want to have this relationship with her, I really got to figure what this is, what's driving all of this, the unconscious motive and the benefits that I'm getting out of all of this. So then it led me to the next collapse, and then realizing why I did it, which was to have women tell me that I'm valuable because I didn't perceive that, and I had issues with like certain partners in the past that helped create that with my mum as well, and my sister feeling abandoned at certain points. That's the story with it. So once I realized that, I had a breakthrough there, and then that's changed completely. So that started to set up the foundation of my family with my wife. From there, I had a breakthrough with I used to organize music festivals, and I used to do it, but I lost a lot of money doing it, but I kept doing it, and I didn't like the management of it. I like the outcome of it. And when I worked with my coach, realizing afterwards that, wow, actually, the reason why I did all that was I wanted to impress people. And when I realized that around the same time, the same trip, right,
Mm.
that completely evaporated. And then 2 months later, the coaching started to emerge. Me doing the coaching, me doing like the Demartini coaching, things like that. Same period. I was on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, and doing steroids since 2014. And by this point, I'm also like, I won't recover my health. Like it's done. Like I'm going to probably be injecting this 3 times a week for the rest of my life. And during that period, I go see Frank Zane, who's a Mr. Olympia champion in the States. I talk to him. He helps me realize that what people are posting online isn't true, and I can recover. And that he's got low testosterone because of cancer, that he's operating no problem. And I had this perception that high testosterone is good, low testosterone is bad. So when I realized that, I started to equilibrate that, like, oh, well, what's actually, how's that been a benefit to my life? And when that happened, I stopped taking testosterone. And it's been like 3 years and my testosterone ended up recovering. So I'm not on that either. So my health got improved. My business, um, my new career popped up and I worked towards that. My relationship and foundation with my wife and the relationship with my parents. So eventually, once I accumulated all that and I sat back and I thought about it, um, it was it was worth it. It's like I paid this money, but what I got out of it was was more than I could have asked for. And then once I saw that connection and I saw that it was yeah, it was done. And which was awesome because that cleared a lot of PTSD that I had towards money management. And then later on throughout the last couple of years, new cycles of money, new cycles of bull runs and stuff happen in crypto or stocks, and I'm okay with taking advantage of that.
Mm. Wow. Sounded like it popped a lot of fantasies.
It did completely, completely.
Um, I'm looking at Andy's face right now, and whenever I look at Andy's face, it just reminds me of values because
Yeah.
he's just, to me, a master of that subject. And so I wanted to ask you, what is the value that's driving behind you doing over 2,000 hours of one-on-one coaching, coaching other people, and you've done 10 breakthrough experiences in the last like 9 months, 10 months?
The facilitating, yeah.
Yeah, the facilitating. What drives this?
Um, and for me, right? I saw the transformation it had in my life. From where I started, I'm not on antidepressants. I don't have general anxiety disorder. I'm not doing drugs, right? If I choose to, I can. And there's been many parts where I can choose, and I'm not suppressing it. There's a difference for me that I realize of suppressing doing something that I really want to do versus just like having the freedom to be like, do I want to do it or do I not want to do it? So seeing that change, seeing the breakthroughs that my wife has had with the subordinations that she had with her family, things like that, and how it's brought us close together. Um, so seeing those. So for me, when I do this, it reminds me of when I'm a kid and I'm playing these video games where I'm solving puzzles. And throughout high school, I'm playing Sudoku, right? And so when I'm doing the collapses and when I'm going through it, it's like I'm playing Sudoku, but but it's my life. And when I'm playing with it and I'm working through it, like you can say like the reward, I guess, is that I get to dissolve limiting beliefs about what I can or can't do that I've placed on myself. So that's why I love to do the work. I would also say like when it comes to the values, feeling really disempowered when I'm younger with the family, like my perceptions of the family and the social circle plays a big role for me to want to be that empowered. There's also that component of wanting to be special, wanting to be recognized up to a point, right? That played a huge role in it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, is that something like do you dissolve that along the way, like doing the method on the method?
I definitely dissolved doing the method like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, but I think it's still an ongoing process. I think it's probably one of the most important collapses to do because at one point it's just running in my mind all the time. But then once I dissolved it, it's kind of like I can switch it on and off at times, or like at least I choose to have it on with friends or turn it off with friends.
Mm. What else do you think is the most important collapses to do?
For me, it was that special piece. That was a really big one for me, and I didn't collapse that until recently when I had my appendix taken out, and then during the appendix, I'm going through all this pain. And I'm wondering, okay, what did I do to attract this pain? And where I was feeling the specialness was I was reading a couple of books on Taoism by Lietze and Chuang Tzu. And I really like their concept of Taoism, where it's like that it's about spontaneous action, but what spontaneous action is dissolving all the judgments that you have in the morality pieces. So you're just acting spontaneously with what you love to do without judging it. So I was getting like a bit high on that, reading that book. And then when my appendix came out, I'm in the hospital and I'm like, wow, I feel really like bummed out right now. And I'm trying to analyze it. And I was telling my wife about it, and my wife's just lying there and she's like, well, you're special to me. And I was like, huh, okay. Well, let me think about this because my wife thinks I'm special. So why do I need other people to think I'm special, or why do I need other people to recognize me? And so I sat with that and I'm like, well, I don't need that. And so the next day I go home and I'm lying in bed at night. I'm like, okay, well, if if my wife thinks I'm special now and recognize me now, who was it before this? And then I started thinking about my mum and dad. And it's like, okay, well, I guess it's a column 12 maybe, or yeah, 5 or 12. I'm like, well, where did my mum and dad demonstrate to me that I'm special, giving me attention, making an effort for me, making time? And I just like in my mind, I just pulled out all these moments and reflected all these moments of when my mum would take me to school, when she would feed me, wipe my bum, all these things, right? From the age of like 4, from what I remember, to all the way till now. And it was like times of when I'm a kid, I can't do anything for myself, or when I was in debt, or when I'm like struggling with drugs or whatever it was, or when I end up being a little bit more successful. It's like no matter who I was at that time, I just had to be her son. And I was probably special to her the moment she found out that I was in her tummy. And I'll probably be special to her till the day I died. And that recognition. And that was probably the most like biggest cathartic breakthrough I've had out of all of them.
Oh, wow. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Um, so after I did that, which was like maybe like a month and a half ago, a month and a half, 2 months ago. I had this fantasy that I'm going to post online and I want to like put myself out there. And there's that pressure, and I'm comparing to a few people around me in Bangkok that are doing that. And the moment that happened and I had that breakthrough, that completely just dissolved. And there's like this moment of like content or equanimity for a while, like content, where I'm just feeling for like a week or so where I just feel I'm content with where I am and what I have. And it's perfect right now for what I have. And then I guess throughout that period, I'm thinking about, well, what do I really value it now? And it's my wife facilitating one-on-ones and just maybe studying and learning.
And then what's your relationship to when you think about posting online and what you were thinking about a month ago?
I I post now, and I'm there's not a pressure of trying to when I post it, it's trying to impress as much as before, for sure. Um, yeah, that's the difference that I've been able to notice, and just a more I don't know more freeing, less pressure on myself to do all these things that I was putting onto myself. Yeah,
Chung, I'm curious, you talked about different breakthroughs in different areas of your life.
yeah.
What is your process? You kind of alluded to it a few times, but as you're going through your life and you're Chung going through the world and doing whatever you're doing throughout the day, what's your process for identifying and then working on and dissolving the different charges because they've been in different areas? And how do you go about taking something that's going on in your life and then becoming aware of it and deciding to work on it? Do you have a process for that consciously on?
Um, I I would say that whatever pops up in my mind, I think there was a period at the very beginning where I would just put my headphones in and I would just during COVID and I would just walk every single day for maybe 3 hours. I just walk. Doesn't matter where I walk, I just walk. And I would just make a list of all the judgments I had on myself and whether it's pride or whether it's shame or embarrassment or whatever it is. And I just make a list of it. And I think that got me really good at identifying what a judgment is and what judgments I have on myself. So now when I have a judgment on myself with something, I will think about it and I will think about whether it's worth collapsing right now or to save it for later. So recently, I had more money charges coming up, more like avoiding wanting to like look at my statements or whatever it's going to be, and I just sit with it for a while. And if I think it's time to do it, if there's an event that pops up for me to actually start thinking about it more, then I will collapse it. So I'm running like a breakthrough experience with John in Bangkok, and then I'm also hosting a webinar with him. And I had these money charges in the past just sitting there, and I knew that I was sitting there. But then now with the webinar, I'm starting to think like, wow, I'm actually going to lose like quite a bit of money with this, right? So then now it's like, okay, well, where are these charges coming from? And now the money charges are more relevant to start working on. And so now I'm starting to explore it with myself or with my coaches. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, because you've talked about some of the things that you've worked through, and they're in all different areas of life. And so I was just curious, like how that kind of came about, your process for it. Um, the other thing I was going to ask you about is you're one of the facilitators that hasn't just facilitated in Australia when John comes down, but you've traveled to different countries. What's your experience of that been like? You've gone to the States, you've gone London, I'm pretty sure.
South
No,
Africa.
South Africa. Um, a lot of the facilitators are here from Australia. Is it a different vibe in other countries with other facilitators, how it's conducted? What have you kind of learned from your travels overseas facilitating?
Um, I have a soft spot for facilitating in Australia, maybe because I'm Australian, um, and because there's more. younger facilitators I get to work with, so we get to banter. It's like we get to have quite a bit of fun. So I love that. Um, when I'm overseas, I know with like South Africa, sometimes what I felt was it was more just like I'm just doing my work. I'm here to facilitate, and that's it. There's not so much the bantering, the having fun, the laughing like sometimes we get to have, right? In terms of the participants that I get to work through, I haven't noticed anything too different or out of the ordinary with people I get to work with, but participants I get to work with. Some have been intense over there, some have been intense in Australia. South Africa was okay as well, but nothing out of the ordinary with participants.
Yeah, nice. Um, the other thing I was going to ask about, I missed the context on it before, but you were speaking on at one stage you were taking testosterone, and then
Hmm.
did you say that you did a collapse on that, and then you no longer needed to take it? Have you
Uh,
had any insights around the drugs you were taking, if it was depression or what have you, and then the correlation with doing the method on those charges?
so yeah, so I had this perception in my mind and this story in my mind that low testosterone is bad, high testosterone is good, right? And that because I've done steroids in the past and I've done all these different chemicals, I'm not going to be able to recover. And I would beat myself up about that quite and compare myself to all these people that are not doing TRT and they have natural testosterone or whatever. But once I spoke to Frank Zane and he told me that he has low testosterone, he's 80 and he's training me, he's in the sun, he's got people coming to his place and he's coaching them and all these type of things. That kind of got my mind kind of thinking about it. So then I laid in bed and I was just looking at the downsides of having high testosterone and the benefits of having low testosterone in my life. And once I equilibrated that, it was more of, I wouldn't say it changed my testosterone. It was just a non-issue in my mind. And I was just more flexible with it. And then after that, I contacted a online doctor that's more uh, knowledgeable in this field. And he just told me with my age, in what he's seen, it's going to take me like 18 months to recover. Just give it 18 months. And so that's my experience with it. Just look after my health, eat well, and do that. And what was really cool was my testosterone was like 150 nanograms per deciliter, which is the average is 300 to 900. Okay, that's the range. But once I was at 150 to 200 when I had that breakthrough or that collapse on it. And then literally like 3, 4 months later, I ended up doing that pilgrimage, the one in Shikoku. And I did it all on low testosterone, and I was completely fine.
Yeah, nice. I missed the context around that initially, so I just wanted to pick up
Yeah.
on that. Dom, anything else you want to put in here?
Yeah, Trung. So you're going for your master's next year. That's in the certification of Demartini Institute.
Yep.
But it sounds like your sort of pursuit and what you're doing, it sounds like mastery is quite important to you. Has has mastery or the word of mastery been significant to you in your life?
Um, not until John's work, I would say. But I think the word that was in my mind was conquering my mind. And that was what I had written 2013, 2014, and I wanted to explore my mind and conquer it and explore it like Christopher Columbus did back in the day with the world. And that's how I saw my mind. And how I saw myself doing that is exploring whatever memory is necessary, whether it's pleasurable or painful.
And then if back then it was like something you wanted to conquer and be
Mm.
able to, you know, be able to lead or whatever it is in your words, but now what is your relationship with your mind and with charges as well, like emotional charges? Are they
Um,
things to conquer or, and I know they could be things, but, or to master, but what does that actually mean to you?
now it's a thing to explore. When I get to find like something hidden, a hidden charge. Like today, I'm working with a coach, and some money charges just pop up, right? It's like, wow, I get to explore this to crack another, dissolve another like limiting belief that, helps me widen the now, which allows me to find out, to expand what awareness I have in the moment, which gives me a greater chance at getting or achieving what I'm looking to achieve.
Mm, mm.
So to me, it's like when I have a breakthrough, it's like it's just giving me a higher probability to get what I want.
Okay, cool, cool. And then in these years of all these breakthroughs, remember when we were playing around and exploring the destruction, the building, the creating and
Yeah.
destroying? Yeah. And at the start, like I was thinking, this isn't really the highlight of the method for me. But then you ended up getting a lot out of it.
Yes.
Um, have there been other areas of the process, the method, or whatever the approach that now you appreciate differently or you see nuances in?
Definitely 6 and 13. Because I avoided 6 and 13 for like 4 years because I didn't I didn't know how to do it properly. And I've only had in the first 4 years from 2020 to 2024, mid 2024, I probably had maybe four 6 and 13s and or like three, and they were from John. So I didn't really get that full proper 6 and 13 collapse until I started working with Deb. And when I worked with her, we just practiced 6 and 13, 6 and 13, 6 and 13. And I've had some pretty beautiful and unique experiences with 6 and 13. I didn't get to meet my grandparents because my dad's side anyway, because they died in the Cambodian War. And I had this narrative growing up that I didn't know who my grandparents were on his side. And sometimes I'd be like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. Like I look at other people with their grandparents. And then I ended up having a 6 and 13 with Deb on that. And I remember exper my dad was yelling at my sister, and my sister was arguing with my dad. And I saw the people support my sister, but then who was supporting my dad? And it was my grandma and grandpa, right? This is when I'm like maybe 8 years old. And when that happened, I just had this breakthrough, and it's like my heart kind of just expanded. And I didn't know anything about them, but I knew their love for me and my family. And I remember coming out of that until now, where it's like I didn't get to meet them, but I know who they are and I know their love for me. So that was a really profound experience with 6 and 13 for me. And I've been wanting to work with that ever since. And I have a whole different appreciation for that. And I've seen that with other when I've been able to facilitate other people as well. They're getting to have these heart opens with their grandma or whoever it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Magical.
Yeah.
Magical.
That's definitely my probably my favorite column these days. Yeah.
What's different in your understanding of it now to the Trung that was just starting to dabble in it?
I think just experience over time, working with people in six and working with people in the breakthrough experiences, and just yeah, just that experience of exploring what the opposite might be. There's a lot of opposites that I'm not able to get, so then I have to jump to other columns. But the ones that I am able to like work with and they get to pop it with, it just builds onto that level of confidence until the certainty is hit.
Have you had some experiences, or what's something where other people would think, nah, you wouldn't be able to dissolve that, or you wouldn't be able to feel grateful about that quickly? Have you had anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the. I was in Toronto, and I'm looking after a row of 8 people, and two of them are looking after themselves. I'm looking after two other women, and it's working on their dads. Cool. Someone else, and then the person at the end is this 21 year old, and he was working on his mum criticizing him, and so I was like working with him through that, and I was wondering what the criticism was, and we're looking for the criticism, and then he finally opens up that it's his mum's criticizing him because he sexually molested his sister when he was 16 and she was 21. And when he said that, I was like, okay, I'm a bit nervous because I've worked on the opposite side. I've worked with a few people on the opposite side, but this one, I'm like, huh, I don't know what the outcome can be with this, right? So then I end up working with him, and we're dancing around so many different columns. He saw the benefits to him. He saw the benefits to his sister. But then there's still like this moment of shame. Then I asked Elena, John's daughter, to come in and she starts coaching him from a different perspective. That's really cool. And then I sit with him outside the next day on the Sunday and I'm trying to work with him till like 4 p.m. And there's just like this piece that he just can't let go of. And it's to do with his mum, and I couldn't pick up on it. And then I asked Donna to come, Donna Parker, and we sit there and she's facilitating and it's about the mum and she's got more of that mum vibe. So then she coaches him, works with him, and then she does the chairs with him. And he has like tears and they hug and stuff. And he then says, "Oh, wow. I wish I could do that with my mum." Right. And we're like, "Okay, well, where's your mum?" And he's like, "Oh, she's actually sitting in the room, in the breakthrough room, but she's sitting on the other side." And we're like, "All right, get her. Let's get her out. Let's do this." And so we pull out the mum and we get the chairs. And he sits there with her and they hold hands and he starts opening up and he's like, "Mum, I just want you to know that I love her and I wanted to have that sexual experience with her." And he's just opening up about how he feels about his sister. And I'm sitting there like, whoa, like you can do this? Like, wow, you can tell your mum this? Like my mind's kind of like going a little bit like haywire. I'm like, what is going on? And then the mum is like, I told you need to see a therapist. I told you need to do this. And then Donna was like, nope, mum, puts her hand on the heart, puts her hand on the mum's heart. It's like, "Mum, just open from your heart." And so they start sharing a bit more. And then the son like just holds her hand and he says to her, "I hope I can come home and I can spend time with you." And the mum just hugs her, like leans in, like hugs him, pulls him in, and she just breaks down in tears. And she's like, "I miss you so much. I love you so much. No matter what you've done, I love you. I love you. I love you." And I didn't know that was possible. Right. And instantly it's just like, wow, heart open. It just felt like this really dense energy, just like, just that's it, just evaporated that the mum was holding on to and the son was holding on to. It was a really beautiful moment. But yeah, that's a breakthrough that I had I didn't know that was possible. Wow.
Wow. Wow. Have you had a few of those across your breakthroughs around the world where something's really stood out to you like that?
Um, that's probably the highlight one,
Mm.
I would say. Um, I definitely had one that I was in Houston and there was a young gentleman, he's 24 years old, and he was working on his ex-boss. And there was a lot of judgment of his ex-boss just like insulting him, like, "You're stupid, like what are you doing? Like, don't you fucking know better?" kind of thing, right? Um, and throughout the other columns, I can tell that he's intellectualizing the whole thing. It's like, yeah, 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 I can see the benefit. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I go, wow, yeah, I can see it. But there's no tears to register it. But it was really cool because we get to see like, what his dream was. He wanted to be an engineer for Tesla, these type of things. But then when we got to 6 and 13, we went to the moment where the boss insulted him and we went just a couple steps back. And what was beautiful was he got insulted and who in that moment was praising him. And he's like, "Yep, this person, that person. Nah, there's no one else. Nah, there's no one else." I'm like, "Nope, just get present. Where are you?" And he's like, "Yep, yep." And then all of a sudden he's just like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh, what the fuck?" And his dad popped up. And it was when he first made his engineering project and his dad came in and his dad was just like, "Wow, well done. Wow, I'm proud of you." Right. And then he just had a big, pretty big cathartic release on that one. So like seeing things like that was really, really wonderful. Same breakthrough. I was facilitating in the chairs at the end. I was doing the closing and the guy comes, the same one, the 24-year-old, and this other person comes. And he's probably like the hardest person in the room for sure, without a doubt. And he doesn't have a breakthrough, and I kind of register it, and I'm like, feeling a little bit proud. I'm like, you know what? Let me take you outside, and we can do some of the collapse work. So we're doing the collapse work. John starts talking, then I take him outside. We go to the room behind, and he's judging. He's working on his dad for installing negative beliefs into his head, such as 12 years old, don't trust anyone. Don't trust people. People are bad. You can't fucking trust them. Right. And he's been judging himself for that. And it's pretty much his dad imposing his beliefs onto him, installing these beliefs. So I keep asking him, what's the benefit? What's the benefit? What's the benefit? And then at one point, he just stands up and he's like, I don't give a fuck what the benefits are. Like, fuck you, fuck this. And he's just like yelling at me. And I'm like, holy shit. All right. I'm like, well, okay, I don't know what to do here because I'm his dad now. I don't know what to do because he looks like he's about to hit me. Right. And everyone in the other room just goes quiet. And I'm just like sitting there, like, okay, outside, I'm trying to be like calm, but inside, I'm like, fuck, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. And then Elena comes in, and then I just get to, it was beautiful because I get to watch her facilitate him in such a more gentle way than me being like, well, what's the benefit? What's the downside? What's this? And what was inspiring about that was he didn't get the breakthrough, but the last words before, not the last words, but before Elena came in, his words before he like arced up was, why the fuck do I need to see what my dad did for me? He didn't do shit for me. He didn't do anything for me. Fuck him. I don't need to be grateful for him, right? Along those lines. We coach him. I watch them coach. We go have lunch. He asked me to have lunch with him. So then I have lunch with him. We come back, coach him again with Elena. She's coaching him. And then by the end of it, he is in the breakthrough room and he comes over with a letter. And in the letter, it says, thank you, Dad, for what you did because of you, I joined the military, I built a company, I have like 300 employees or clients. And he just wrote like this letter thanking his dad and acknowledging his dad for what his dad did in his life. From he never did anything for me. So I thought that was pretty inspiring to see. No tears, but moving into that direction.
No tears. I still feel really moved by that. The funny metric.
It is a funny metric, isn't it? Is there tears? No, there's no tears. Don't check it. Let's keep going.
Um,
Yeah.
Andy, is there anything that's
Yeah, there's quite a few new facilitators in the room, Trung, and
Mm.
maybe they've just done the training program. Maybe they're new to the work, or maybe they've been in the work for a while. Um, what's something like if you were in the position where you just came across the Demartini method now and it's new for you, but you're looking back across your experience with it, what would be a couple of things that you found really accelerated your understanding of it, development of it, value of it that you could share with those facilitators?
I think working with a facilitator has been my core. I started working with facilitators from the very beginning, and whether that's like a paid facilitator or whether that's partnering with another facilitator that's starting and just working together every week, and having that metric of going to a tier, because then later on, at least you know that that's what's possible, and you can dance around the other whether you get a tier or not and get to feel that. I think that that's probably the most important because that's what helped me with my growth the most. Just practicing and practicing and having my own breakthroughs, journaling about it, journaling every breakthrough that I have because I end up forgetting what it is. And sometimes then I'm doubting the method and I'm doubting if this even works or not. Or like, am I in a cult or is this doing the right thing? Right. Like I'm just bouncing all these things and I forget about what kind of transformation it's had in my life. So journaling it as well is a big key, big component of it for me. But working with other facilitators um, has been the most transformative for me. Yeah.
Nice. I also wanted to ask, you mentioned earlier you're hosting the breakthrough in Bangkok. Did you want to tell us a little bit about what it's been like to, because anyone can host a breakthrough. what it's been like to put your hand up to host the breakthrough, what the process is like, and the opportunity for people if they want to join you in Bangkok.
Um, yeah, I decided to do it last year in November, October. Yeah, I wanted to bring John to Bangkok because I just wanted my friends to experience it and see and enjoy it because they have done some of the work and they have had their own transformations and stuff. But I wanted to bring John to Bangkok and just facilitate that. In terms of running it, it's been a little bit difficult because I haven't done the marketing for such a long time. But no, yeah, it's chugging along. There's not really much to share about that. Yeah, November 1st and 2nd, if anyone's interested. It's been a little bit, Marelise has helped me a lot with getting me this contract signed and what to expect. Deb has helped me quite a lot in understanding how to manage what I need to manage in the breakthrough experience. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Um, any other questions that you've got sitting there, Dom?
Yeah, yeah. Trung, we spoke sort of about this the start of the year, just because it was linking, so don't really have to go into it. But there was a experience that you had with Bright and to do with your family.
Yeah.
And when you told me that, it was something that you sort of, while you're going through it, you're doing the method,
Yes.
which I found just really insightful. Hearing about that experience, is that something that you're open to chatting about?
Yeah, absolutely. So Bright had an abortion in February, or like 14 weeks, 15 weeks. Um, so we live in Thailand. So the rules are abortion happens up to 20 weeks, but it's still pretty like uh, gray area. Um, Past a certain point, after 15, 16 weeks, it's quite difficult. So we ended up doing the test, and around the 14th week, 15th week is when we find out that actually there's a defect in the baby, and it's to do with the skull and the bone structure, how it fuses together. So the best case scenario is the baby comes out and we have to drill the skull, make it bigger multiple times. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that throughout its life, and then all these other like issues with its like abnormalities. So we find out about that. And I don't know how to feel about it. Bright doesn't know how to feel about it, right? And she's like, no, maybe we just need to get rid of it. Maybe we need to like figure this out. And I don't like, we don't want to deal with this type of thing. Me, I'm more like, no, like, let's go find out and let's go find out from the doctor. Let's see what we can do. Maybe we need to do more. Maybe we can need to like just wait, sit and wait. She knew the system better than I did. She's like, no, Trong, you can't do that. It's going to be too late by this point in Thailand. And I'm like, no, I'm reading on Reddit and we'll be fine. I'm just using Reddit. I'm like, yeah, yeah, no, Reddit's telling me we'll be fine. And she's like, no. So we kind of start fighting. So it happened on the Thursday. We find out on the Thursday. We fly to Phuket for a wedding on the Friday, and the doctor told us to just wait. And then on the Friday, we're lying in bed with each other and we're talking about it. And we start talking about the potential of having an abortion. And well, maybe we want to have like a boy next time or something like that. And as I'm saying that, I feel a lot of guilt already because it's like I don't want the baby, right? Like I feel that guilt. It's quite heavy. The next day, we end up talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, no, you need to come in, do more tests. And if we do more tests, it's going to take another 2 weeks, which means we're going to get to that point where, we can't do anything about it. So then on the Sunday, me and her are kind of arguing at each other now because I want to give it a shot, give it a chance, and I want to believe that everything's okay. I just want to believe that it's all okay, where she's kind of made her decision. And then on the Sunday morning, we start fighting a lot. We start arguing with each other. She's making decisions without me. I wake up, she's researching hospitals, blah, 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 things like that. And then we kind of have an argument. And so at that point, I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to like work on this, or else we're not going to be aligned. Because she was like, if you know, like you can just fly back and you know, I'll handle it. Don't worry, I'll handle it. You just go back. And you know, when she said that, I knew that there's something wrong. So I ended up calling Deb and we started working on it. And we went and did the 6 and 13 in the moment where I perceived that I didn't want the baby, who wanted the baby, and it was God. And then I had a breakthrough there. And then we looked at the fantasy of if we kept the baby the way it is, what's the downside to my life and Bright's life? And we just looked at the downside. And it was just like, I realized the downside in that moment was it would ruin the relationship that me and Bright have been trying to build, this future that we've been trying to build towards. It would completely just change that dramatically. And I had a moment with that with Deb on the phone. And when I realized that, I went back to the hotel room and me and Bright got aligned with each other. And so once we got aligned with each other, we started working together. And you know, we ended up finding a hospital that would allow her. It was a public hospital, which is very different in Thailand, right? A public hospital here is like you open, you know, you go through the door, the elevator, and there's 100 beds, and there's people lying on the floor, and people are like sick on the floor and stuff. So it's very different. Um, so that was the only hospital that would take us that we end up finding out of all of them in Thailand. So as she was going through that, and it's not like surgical where they take out you have to take like this medicine where you end up pushing out like the fetus. And so going through that, throughout that, I'm working with Deb on the phone and she's helping me do 6 and 13. She's helping me collapse it so that I'm emotional, but then I can like just snap back in and I can be the rock for Bright at that time. Because what the pain that she's going through is way more than the pain that I'm going through when I watch her. Like she's like like hanging on by a thread basically at certain moments. But by doing all those collapses, I was able to be there with her, comfort her, and help her push through it. And not coach her in a way of like Demartini coaching, but just like coaching her, like, hey, I'm here with you. Let's go. We can go through it. And that has been such a pivotal moment in our relationship because that just brought us together. And for her, she recognized that that was what family is and that she can trust me as a as a husband. And she has her own like stuff with like family back in the past of why this played out pretty well for her. But it helped me collapse that and work and be there with her throughout real time and just manage my emotions and help manage her emotions and yeah, be that rock for her.
Wow. So with that experience, she's having the experience that you're being the rock for her and that trusting you as a husband.
Yes. Yes.
And is that a charge that pop like something like that? Has that popped up? Does it come back in different layers to work on? Um, how's that been for you?
Um, I did quite a bit of work on it already. Um, for Bright, she didn't work on it too much. We did afterwards when she came out of the hospital, we're in the bed. I helped her with 6 and 13. Again, she also had the guilt of just making that quick decision of not wanting it. Who wanted it? It was me. It was God for her. I equilibrated that. In terms of like working on the event itself, she hasn't fully worked on it yet. And now that we're trying with like IVF and stuff, um, she can sense like that PTSD, maybe you would call it, just that fear of it not going right or something's going to go wrong and not being in control is popping up for her again, and that's something she wants to work on. But the gift for her throughout all one of it as well was realizing she had this idea in her, she had this belief in her mind, this perception that she's that lucky girl and she can, you know, she's grown up being that lucky girl, she'll be able to get what she wants kind of thing. And now the thing that she wants the most, she wasn't able to get and she didn't have control. And when she realized that, it was a pretty big, like humbling for her, but also like a pretty beautiful realization for her as well.
Mm, mm. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. And
Yeah, no
thanks
problem.
so far for all these stories that you've been sharing as well.
Yeah, we've been yeah, it's really cool to see what's been popping up like with this because now we're still working through some of the stuff like with the IVF that we're going through and the fears of the fears that she's facing as well. So
And are you finding that that's continuously bringing you together, or is that what are some of the other gifts in that?
Um, for sure, it's bringing us together. It's helping me just listen. Just be there, just listen. Don't have to collapse it. Just listen and do what I can as a husband for her. Yeah.
Can you expand just a tiny bit on that when you said don't have to collapse it?
Yeah, like instead of approaching it of, let's collapse and break through and that kind of mentality, it's I'm here for you. Just lying in bed with her in the past, just being there with her and hey, I feel you and I'm here. No matter what happens, I'm here for you. And you can cry on my shoulder, you can take as long as you need. I'm here. Um, and I love you. And we'll go through it together. And I think that that has really bonded us so much because she did that for me when I found out my dad has dementia, like 2 years ago. And I was just crying in my room. And all she did was hold me and hold my hand and just let me have a sook and have a whinge. And that was that just melted us together.
Didn't whisper in your ear, what's the benefit?
No, no, no. Just like,
Caress your hair.
yeah, yeah.
Who
Yeah.
doesn't have dementia in that exact moment?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
That's beautiful. Um, wow. Really, really can feel your heart, Trung.
Yeah. No, this work has been incredible, right? Like working through that, working through my dad with his dementia as well. Just when I was like, when that hit me, that was like pretty hard to deal with for a bit. Then I worked with Perry, and then everything I'm judging in my dad, right? Like, oh, he's spaced out looking out the window. Oh, he's really forgetful. He's paranoid. He doesn't remember our conversations yesterday. Like all of those we just listed out, and then I just owned them all. And then that's all it was, just owning it and seeing the other side of it and seeing the downsides of who I thought my dad was, holding on to that image of who my dad was when he had a strong memory and the downsides of that and the benefits of who my dad is now, the form that he's in now with being forgetful and stuff is that he gets to tell me that he loves me and my mom and my family every day, which is something that he didn't do because he came from war and it was like survival and stuff like that. But now he's like opening up and sharing how much he loves us, which is something that we didn't get to experience so much. So seeing that was the equilibration for me, and also realizing that even though his memory is fading, the essence of his values is still there. His highest values of family is still there, and he's still expressing it and holding on to that and expressing it. And he'll probably express that to the day he dies.
Just curious on that, Trung, as you're going through this experience of dementia, because it's kind of, you describe it as he's kind of fading to a degree.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, did you get to look at who is kind of providing that role for you in your life? Did you get to look at who's coming in as the father?
Um, I would, as you mention it now, I would say that, yeah, John has come in terms of that aspect of like the knowledge piece and the memory piece for sure. Um, I have a very close friend of mine that's older than me that I look up to as like not a father figure, but certain traits. Yeah.
I was going to change the track a little bit. Dom, did you have any other questions on that? Or you're all good?
I was about to wrap it up soon, so go with the track.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a couple of things. So one is around, you mentioned a little bit around getting certified as a
Yeah.
senior level facilitator. What did you find in the certification experience? Some facilitators have gone and done all the levels of certifications, others haven't done the certification. What's been your experience of it? Would you recommend it? Was it worth the time? And what would you share with the facilitators in the room about it?
I thought it was, without a doubt for me, it was worth it. Um, and the reason why it's worth it, at first I thought it's just like, oh, it's just like a certificate, right? But the whole journey of like traveling, who I got to meet, the collapses that like that came out of that, and some of the really deep things that I got to work on from my childhood, from like 5 years old, 7 years old, that I just couldn't figure out in the past, and I was able to get it this time. right? By traveling and doing the certification, just meeting the right people at the right place at the right time to be able to do that, was worth it for me. And the transformation or the realizations, at least, that I got to realize from going from to going to certified, the experiences I got to do and how close I became with my friends. Because when I held the group sessions, a lot of it was with my friends. I get to practice. I get to practice like, explaining the method. I get to coach different people, different environments that I'm uncomfortable with, and I get to see some of my friends have some pretty remarkable breakthroughs. Have been pretty inspiring for me. And then doing my own collapses. Before this, I'm like, I don't really want to do my own collapses. I like working with my like coaches and stuff. But all right, now I remember telling Elena that, and Elena's like, well, I challenge you to just, do your own collapses here on the paper. So I did. And some of those breakthroughs that I got out of them have been like pretty profound, and sparked my own enjoyment and love for doing the work again on the paper myself and getting used to doing it on the form, because before that I didn't really do it on the form. Um, so for me, the whole journey and the whole process that led to that was completely worth it. And some of the breakthroughs I just didn't expect that I would have, whether it was on my intelligence, had a big charge on my intelligence. A couple other pieces on like speaking up or like public speaking, public humiliation when I was younger. I got to work on that, things like that. Yeah, it was really profound.
The other thing I wrote down earlier, I asked you about the travel. What's the main value for you that drove the travel? Because you could just facilitate at the ones in Australia, you could fulfill the requirements, but what did you really get out of going and traveling for this?
I got to spend more time with different facilitators overseas and meet new facilitators, which I really enjoyed. And I got to meet and spend more time with Perry and Donna. Um, there's that component, and also that I yeah, there's there's not too much except that I could just do the facilitations a lot quicker and get the requirements in terms of facilitating at breakthroughs and the experience a lot faster. Especially because I was planning to have a baby this year with Bright, but now it'll be next year. But as well as planning for it, it's like, okay, well, how can I, I'm doing this already. How can I get all that experience and, also overcome my fear and my nervousness in facilitating? Because I remember speaking to you about it when I first had two facilitations, maybe three facilitations, and I asked you, do you get nervous still? Like, because you've done like 20 to 30. And I asked, like, do you still get nervous? Because I still get really nervous before. And I still do. But I was like, at that point, I was like, man, I get really nervous still. And you were telling me how, like, yeah, even up to the sixth one, you were nervous. And I was like, okay, cool. So if I just keep going at it and I just keep doing it, then I'll overcome that. So then that's also one aspect of it as well.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I found um you're talking about facilitating at the breakthrough experience, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I found the more and more I did when I got to the 25th one, that's when it was more like, I suppose it's as you go, you're becoming more used to it, but the needing to get people through. We had a discussion at one point about when you're facilitating at the breakthrough, you've got your row of people, and there's a pressure of I need to get my people through. What you're talking about there, that's what I was thinking. Like that pressure of need to get my people through kind of relaxed after the sixth or seventh one when I realized that, oh, actually you've got a whole room of facilitators and we're assigned to these people, but they're going to get through if they have an intention to get through, and if they don't have an intention, they're not going to work no matter
Yes.
and have the intention kind of thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
I noticed I had that pressure the first few ones, right? The first few ones to get them through, especially on the first one where it's like I'm looking after my own row. I was in South Africa, and luckily because Belle was there, so I can like ask Belle to like, hey, can you help me? Right? Like, hey, can you help me? And I was really stressed that night, but then on the next day, on the Sunday, yeah, just people get through, and that having that experience is like, wow, okay, takes the pressure off. Then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. It's like, oh, people still just get their breakthroughs, and they just kind of chug along. And yeah, they if they want it, and it's not up to me. I'm a part of it, but it's not up to me, right? It's also up to them as well, like you mentioned.
You've been coached by many master facilitators. You've done quite a number of sessions, one-on-one sessions with John. What is the Trung approach to coaching, or the not the Trung method, but what's your style when you're coaching people?
Um, I don't know how to answer that. Like, I, I just, I go in with the intention of exploring their minds and solving a puzzle with them. And I'll use whatever column I need to to try to figure it out with them. And I'm playful. I can be hard. I can be gentle. Like it's yeah. I'm not sure how to answer that.
Yeah, I feel that, well, that intention itself is quite a bit of an answer. I guess like in my mind, I was picturing, imagine the script or the method, like a robot was doing it. And then what would be the difference to you doing it to the robot?
I think I'm quite playful with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be quite playful with who I'm facilitating with, without a doubt. Yeah,
And
and maybe that would be the difference.
is that like working humor in with it?
It's
What
working
does
humor.
playful
It's
mean?
sharing. Yeah, it's working humor. It's sharing my stories. It's also like if I do identify that I have a button, I will invest the time and the money to work on it myself. There's been many clients that I feel a button with, a charge with, and then it's like, okay, no, it's up to me to go work on this, and then I'll reach out to a coach and I'll work with them on until I get that button, or work through that button.
Epic. And do you notice what happens when you're working with the client and you haven't worked on that button? Like it sounds like you're pretty proactive on it, but have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, for sure. No, no, for sure. And it just somehow works out that we don't work together. It just somehow works out that
Coincidence.
they're too busy now. Oh, I'm too busy. But yes, that's what I notice. Yes.
That's
I
amazing.
just I remember John saying a quote, "You never get a client you're not ready for." And I guess this is how it plays out in life. And just stay away.
Um, yeah, I actually in Melbourne. Do you remember that client, that person that I facilitated who had that tick? He had like a tick and he couldn't breathe properly, or he's like
Yeah.
that a lot, and it was quite difficult for him to have a breakthrough. So literally 2 days before that, so I've been working with a client for 2 months prior to that, and he's been dodging a lot. That's my judgment on him, dodging, not answering the questions. And literally 2 or 3 days before that, I was working with my coach on dodging and on dodging. And I went and watched the very first time I did values training, right, with John in 2021, I think it was. And I remember dodging so hard, and I was watching it. I couldn't, like, I was like squirming watching it. And he's just like, you know what, Trung? You're a really good fucking bullshit artist in front of everyone, in front of everyone. And I'm like, oh my God. So watching that helped me own where I dodge, and it humbled me enough to then work through it with my coach, and I had a breakthrough on it. And then literally 2 days later in the breakthrough room, I get to work with him, and I just sit with him, and eventually he ends up having his breakthrough. So that was me doing the work on the resistance. And that's what played out for that event anyway.
Epic. Just want to acknowledge how you tell stories without us having to ask like 10 layer digging questions. Like you can tell how much you've embodied and actually live and breathe the exploration of yourself truly, because as you're speaking, it comes out so cleanly. And yeah, it's really refreshing. So
Thank
that's
you.
really cool. A lot of people in this group will be interested in different things. And so I'd like to ask you the question, see what they resonate with, which is what's your favorite program? Um, of John's. What area do you love to explore?
I think now it's synchronicity training program too.
Yep.
Yeah, I find that, I avoided that for 4 years and it was an uphill battle, right? And, I was telling you today that, column three and column four is where I struggle with these days. That's the weakest part of helping people, especially like seeing the downsides of certain prides or whatever. But what I have found for me is 6 and 13 has been so pivotal when it comes to like really deep emotional charges. And that has made those columns a lot easier or like more objective for clients when they are able to get that dissolve that emotional charge, and then we're able to look at the downsides or the benefits of column 3, 4, or 10 and 11.
Yeah.
So I love the training program number two. Like that's just being present, and if you're present and you can just explore and find the opposite of whatever the judgment is, boom, they don't have to think too hard about it and it can pop. And then that just makes everything else, more easier in my perception of it.
Mm.
Yeah. And what do you think about it? Did you have fun
Uh,
in that? Doing it together.
yeah, I really resonated with that. I resonated. It's just great to, for me, a reminder and to lift the standards again that you can get a tier in each column. That it's not
Mm,
just this sort of luxury in a facilitation. Um,
yeah.
and so it's, yeah, but for me, for sure, 6 and 13. I also find side A, column 3, probably column 5 and 12 was the one I had a challenge with when we were doing a pre-brief at a breakthrough one time, and I was doing a dissolving on someone in my life. And as I'm going through all the columns popping, and then 5 and 12, I was just like at an 8 out of 10. And I thought, fuck, I hope this doesn't get in the way today. And then sit down. The person I get assigned tells me that their grandfather has like kidnapped her child and hasn't seen him in 10 years. And I'm laughing because then when I'm asking the question, where's he done the opposite? and and I guess the certainty that I had, as soon as I saw her, I thought, okay, this is going to be a windy road. And yeah, it did end up being a windy road, and that did end up being like the most difficult column. And we got very close to it. And then at the closing station, the facilitator helped her pop it even more. Actually, that was Andy. Andy, you were working with that person, closing them. But yeah, that really just highlights how important my own charge and my own work and certainty is. So beautiful lesson with that. Thanks for asking. I would also like to open this up to the group and yeah, just want to say thanks again, Trung, for sharing all of this. And so yeah, we got a bit of time. So what I think will work great is probably the same process as you all know is chuck up that hand emoji. And then, yes, alrighty, that's been role modeled. We're off. Jean Paul.
Go for it.
Hello, Tro. Pleasure to meet you. We've
You too.
spoken quickly, but really appreciate the story that you shared today and your experiences and the deep dive that you went through within that. The question I have for you is about your perception in your experience through the different facilitations that you've done. When you're working on a particular trait with a client in action or inaction that you have, how much did you notice that the work is on the trait itself and how much the work is on the resistance that they hold to that trait, to
Oh,
dissolving that trait?
oh,
What's the
interesting.
ratio you notice in your personal experience of that?
Okay. My personal experience is 60 to 70% it's on the trait. Not having the verbiage to get the action correctly is what I found. And that has been more my own challenges with my clients versus like them not wanting to do the work. However, side A is more on them not wanting to do the work. And I just had one yesterday working on the pride of being praised and helping her look at the downside of that. And we spent 90 minutes on it. And by the end of it, I asked her, what's the benefit you're getting out of not holding on to this, by holding on to this? And her mind was, if she sees the downside of praise, it's going to challenge her identity. And she's not going to be like who she thinks she is anymore. Something along the lines of that. So I find with side A, it's a lot more there's a lot more resistance with side A.
Well, I appreciate that. Very similar to the experiences I have. Getting the trait right, like gets really a lot of the work done. Just nailing that. That's an whole art form to it. And I do notice that the more we're working on infatuations, the more resistance I need to have them dissolve first. I know that for some of my clients, I actually have to dissolve the moral framework itself before they can actually go and do and look for benefits and downsides.
Mm.
And
How do
I'm
you
willing.
how do you dissolve the moral framework?
I collapse the attachment to the framework. So
Okay.
as you mentioned, there's an attachment to things has to be right and things has to be wrong. That's the moral framework. So the way that you mentioned, what's the benefit of holding on to that idea that this has to be right and it has to be wrong? Get the identity, collapse the identity, and then you can come back and collapse that piece there. And for some, I have to go that far before they are willing to actually even sit and answer and not spend, 3 hours just getting one answer out of that. Uh, I've been there. I don't want to do that again. It was very fascinating the last time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that experience. Let's confirm that.
Great. Jean Paul, is that the end of your question? Yeah. Okay, cool.
For now, yes, it is.
Great. D.
Hey guys, hey team. Thanks so much for sharing that, Trung. And that was amazing. Your openness and your journey along the path is quite inspiring. So really appreciate that. And you facilitated that really beautifully, Dom and Andy. So thank you. I just think I had a question because it's my own personal interest again around energetics and John's work around energy. And how he talks about the universal laws and then how that's all in alignment with our body, mind, spirit, so to speak. But have you ever had I think this might be a question for all three of you, really. I'd be interested to know in the various different experiences, but have you had trippy experiences where whoever you're coaching or mentoring or facilitating at one of the events is actually mirroring back to you directly something that you're actually healing the same time or dissolving the same time? So it's like a simultaneous, spontaneous kind of energetic healing that happens when you're working directly with the people. So I guess my question is also, would it be that we're a clearing to the extent that we've worked on ourselves? Like you mentioned, you pulled in Donna or, Adrian, for example. So they're clearing, because they've been in the game for 15, 20 years, energetically, their level of clearing would be greater. Am I trying to intellectualize this? I think I'm intellectualizing this a little bit right now. I don't even have a question really. The question is, from an energy perspective, have you had, when you're working with that person, do they mirror back to you parts of your own life? Because I kind of worked with Ryan and G Ray, and what I found was, as we were doing the method, that what they were telling me was exactly what was happening in my own world, if that makes sense. And then I'm like, is this a coincidence or is it an energetic alignment of some sort?
Andy, do you want to answer this one? Because I think you're best at answering this.
Or am I just do the men in the little white coats need to come and take me away soon? Am I at that point asking this question?
Well, D, I've definitely found in my experience that every client that I'm working with has got a reflection in my own life. So that's one thing that whenever I'm working with someone on a charge and we're starting a new session, one thing I like to look for is, great, I'm not going to be working with this client right now unless they're reflecting something in my life that's coming up. Otherwise, there's no reason for them to bring the charge up with me. But very commonly, when I'm working with someone during the week, whatever my charges are that week, if I write them down at the start of the week, in that week, we're going to work on 4 out of 5 or 8 out of 10, because the stuff that you're resonating with the other person that you end up working on, they're resonating with you for some reason. So you're working on a part of you and you're clearing a part of you as they're clearing something in their life. So I'm pretty sure
Okay.
that's the question that you're asking.
Yeah, it is, Andy. That's the question that I'm asking. I think my brain's also getting fried from all the integrations of this work, or the amount of work that's happened. Have you experienced that, Trung? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
When I have a
Thank
big
you,
breakthrough,
Andy. Yeah.
if I have a big breakthrough on side A is what gives me like the set like the what is it like the identity crisis. If I do side when I do side A, I get identity crises and I just like need to take a rest for like a day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks sometimes. Yeah, it takes a while for
Okay.
the
Yeah.
next piece to emerge.
Yeah, got it. Cool. Okay, I guess that was just me, like from an energetic standpoint. I think that's all I wanted to know because I'm really interested. I'm a bit of a metaphysics nerd to some extent, but you know how he talks about the universe is neutral and then there's like positive and negative charges and how that's all intertwined into our body, mind, spirit, and it impacts our health. Like all of our health is basically a byproduct from all the different charges that we have. And as we dissolve the charges, we should see that our health improves as well. Somewhat of I'm not asking a question. I'm good, guys. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. I got what I needed. Thank you.
Thanks for the questions and teaching. Grayson, I think you're next.
Yeah, awesome. I think it was a good segue in terms of identity crisis. Trung, you mentioned numerous times in your journey that you had a lot of identity crisis from sleeping with loads of women, loss of money, drugs, TRT, numerous breakups. I'm just curious, how did you find your identity back? Because it looks like you found it, you lost it, you found it, you lost it, and there was like a cycle there. And the other question to that also is, did you find that the numerous collapses probably aided those identity crises? Because you mentioned about side A causing the identity crisis. So I'm just curious to understand it a bit more.
So working on side A and collapsing a lot of my social circle around me is what ended up revealing what my highest values are and being able to step into what my highest values are and loving it. Because prior to that, I would be wanting to do coaching, but then I'm judging myself because I'm comparing to all these people around me. And I'm thinking I should be doing crypto. I'm thinking I should be doing business like they are. And so then I have this contradiction in my mind. So then I'm going out and then I'm doing more like crypto trading or whatever it is. And I think that that's my identity. But then when I collapse the people behind that, that's kind of running that illusion, I don't do that anymore. I'm not interested in doing the crypto anymore. And I'm just like, okay, well, who am I? Because I've been in that illusion for quite a while. Does that answer that piece of the question?
Um, in part, because I'm just curious to understand, was it the collapsing of that that caused you to go into the next identity crisis? Or would it be just sitting in it and going, okay, where do I get clarity around what I'm doing?
Um, I would say for me, it was collapsing a lot of, yeah, like I mentioned before, collapsing a lot of the people around me, which is what revealed what my who I am, who I am at like my core is, and being able to step in and loving that. It took a lot of side A's on friends around me to have that. So that's what I just kept sticking with. And every time I did that, I collapsed one person. It was another identity of who I think I should be. Oh, I should be running music festivals. Oh, I should be part of crypto. Oh, I should be this XYZ. And as I took out one person, like I equilibrated one person, the next identity of like, oh, well, maybe I want to be like, keep doing the music festivals, for an example, right?
Yep.
And I would equilibrate that. And then, yeah, and then each persona would keep getting collapsed. And that's where the identity crisis is, because then I'm like, well, who am I now? Once I thought I was going to be this person, but now I'm not. Like, who am I going to be, or who am I? And just
Yep.
being able to sit with that. But then what I noticed was the thing that I was still doing was coaching people, and that was still what was congruent. But I kept thinking I wanted to be something else. But that was the one that was just congruent the whole time through the last like 3, 4 years.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because I'm at that stage where there's a bit of an identity crisis. So just really wanted to hear your thoughts around that.
Yeah. I hope that was helpful for you.
Thank you.
Michelle, I think you're next.
Hey, I had a question. You mentioned turning it on and off when you're with your friends,
Yeah.
and I just wondered what that looks like or how you do that because I am noticing for myself, like when you come across this work, of course you want to share it with people. And then other times you feel you better just hold back a bit because you don't want to annoy people too much, Or, my daughters said to me a couple of times, don't Demartini me. And, and then other times I won't say anything and she'll go, oh, yeah, that's kind of like what you do with the Demartini. And I'm thinking, it's a bit hard to get the right balance. You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
wondered how you keep that balance.
Um, I was thinking about it a lot, and it was quite like obsessive in my mind for a period of a couple of years. And what I noticed was, I was really proud about it, right, Michelle? For me, I was really proud about it. And it wasn't until I had a collapse on it when I realized what the cost of the method was to me. And the cost for me is I have a high value in social. Where I am today and what I've been able to have in my life today is because of my social.
Mm.
And the biggest downside I realized was that pride that I was getting, which was a hidden pride. I was just on default, thinking that I'm not proud, but I was proud, right? And when I had that collapse, I realized that it had actually that pride had muted my empathy towards my friends and the
Mm.
situations that they go through and the cost of that over the year and a half. And even my friend even telling me, like one of my closest friends telling me like, hey, like I don't feel like I can connect with you as much anymore. So when I had that breakthrough on the method itself, um, it just evaporated from my mind for like a good 3, 4 months. And I didn't think about it anymore. And it was just like off in my mind.
You
And
weren't
then
thinking about the method anymore?
for a solid like 3, 4 months, it transformed to like, oh, maybe I'm going to go study like prophecy and stuff. But I literally, the moment I had that breakthrough, I stopped working with my coaches for a solid 3, 4 months. And
Okay.
I didn't think about it, didn't want to think about it. I'm like, nah. But I would go look at like, I would go study a bit more about like the science behind it now. So it transformed to that. And then from there, when I started doing the coaching again, I just found that I think it's because of the humbling. I humbled myself because I saw so much of the downside. That then when I speak to my friends about it, it's like, oh, I don't, it's just something I see it in the form that I have with my community, the community that we have here. But then my friends, I'm like, no, I'm not going to mention it or bring it up.
Yep.
And I guess it would be like I just get to switch in between it
Yeah.
almost.
But
Yeah.
but are your friends still curious about it?
So once I had that collapse, my friends have been a lot more curious about it.
Yeah.
And a lot more people have been doing it and experiencing it, and they work with me. My friends coach with me now, and it's not like I'm reaching out to them. Not all of them, of course, but like it's not like I'm reaching out to them and be like, "Hey, let me coach you." It's they're reaching out to me and asking me if I can coach them, and they trust me so with some of the deepest things.
Yeah.
That happened after I had my the collapse on it, and I do think that is probably the most important piece, collapsing John and also collapsing the method itself, and that's something that one of my coaches, Perry, mentioned that was a really important collapse for her earlier on in her work, and then I think Dom, you also had a podcast with someone, right? The other facilitator that's coached like 12,000 hours for people in South Africa.
Jean.
He was also mentioning that it was the most important collapse for him, collapsing the method, right?
Yeah.
No.
Thanks. That was good.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thomas.
Hey, thanks guys, and thank you, Trung. Yeah, really appreciate everything you've shared, and I just want to also acknowledge, thank you for your dedication in terms of just working on everything you have and like the impact you've had on obviously your clients and people at Breakthrough and like me and us here. So thank you. It means a lot.
Thank you.
The question I've got, depression was on my mind this morning, just the topic. I was reflecting on my depressive period and when you started the call by talking about depression, I was like, okay, I've got to ask some questions here. Got a few, well, tied in. So when you were on meds and in that depressive period, I'm assuming before you started the work, from a Demartini lens, what do you perceive were the contributors towards that in terms of the gaps between reality and expectations, reality and fantasy? Then I guess what did you do to, I guess, what were the biggest things which helped you solve the depression in your perception? And then when did you come off the meds?
Yep.
I hope that wasn't too much, but
yes. Yeah. So I came off antidepressants in 2020 with the work, right? And so that's that. And then the doctor told me when I was 20, and I had this limiting belief in my mind where it's like the doctor told me that, oh, you just have a chemical imbalance in your brain and you're just born like that and there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to take these medications. Just unfortunate, right? So that stuck with me most of my life. And so throughout my life, I'd get off the meds and then it's like, oh, I'm depressed again. I jump back on the meds. I get off the meds, jump back on the meds. And it wasn't until I did prophecy with John and I was sharing with him about, yeah, I had this limiting belief because the doctor told me I have a serotonin deficiency. And John literally just said, well, yeah, of course you have a serotonin deficiency. You have all these like unrealistic expectations about how your life should be and blah, blah, blah. And you have like, let's say you have 100 of them. How could you possibly produce serotonin? And when he said that to me, I was just like, huh, I can't argue that. Right? Like I just can't argue that. That just makes complete sense. So then I ended up, so that broke that belief for me. And so then I ended up working on uh, certain aspects of. So I started identifying what are some more of the fantasies of what I thought my life should have been like, and what it could have been like. And one of it was my sister. That was a really big component. Where I perceived when I was younger, because she's 10 years older than me. I perceived that she had abandoned me in my life because she chose her husband and she left me with mom and dad kind of thing. And so when I ended up having the breakthrough on her and that unrealistic expectation on her, that just kind of like equilibrated a big chunk of it. And then it was where did I come from, my mum and the way I was raised, and then it was like the intelligence piece and the drugs piece and so on and so forth. But it started with realizing that, yeah, it started with realizing that it's a chemical imbalance in my mind, but it's the fantasies I have about what my life and regrets and all that my life should have been like. When I saw that logic, that's when I was ready to go for it, to break through with it. And also seeing the strategy of my depression too, and what I'm getting out of that. All the people helping, all the support, all the friends, like so many things that came out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Yeah, that's a great insight for me in terms of like, well, yeah, of course you've got a chemical imbalance. Because I think I've had it where probably people can relate with Demartini, there's the mainstream out there, which is chemical imbalance, and then you hear this perceptions, but it's like it's either or. And so that's like, well, of course you have this because of this. And that's just such an elegant way to tie in, like go deeper on what the why, rather than saying, fuck that, don't do the drugs, let's do this. It's like, I just love that. That's like huge for me. So thank you for sharing that story, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it wasn't like one breakthrough that like evaporate the depression, right? It's like just a whole journey of exploring this perception or opening this door in my mind. I'm like, oh well, what's this memory? Okay, well let me open it. Maybe it's nothing. And sometimes I'll look at the memory and I'll spend like 20 minutes on it with my coach in the past, and we look at the benefits and drawbacks, and then it'll be like, oh, it's actually nothing. So we'll close the door, and then I'll open up another memory, and I'll be like, oh, what's this memory? That's probably nothing. Let's have a look at it, and then it pulls up like this whole this whole fucking mess, right? And I'm like, where do we start with this? I don't know what to do anymore. And then we're just working through all that. So it was just a process of exploring what was in my mind on whatever and the judgments, right? The motor actions and the inactions. Those are the threads. Those are the threads to open up those doors and those memories.
Perfect. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate that a lot.
David.
Yeah. I was interested, you mentioned about one of the biggest things you said was collapsing the method, but it's kind of like an abstract idea. So trying to understand what some of the traits around that, so I can kind of picture it a little bit easier. Because I've definitely struggled with the collapse. So kind of, I think that would be a good move for me to do. So I was curious about that. If you could talk about that a little bit.
So for me, it was I looked at the cost of doing the method. So the cost of me working with my coaches, the cost of having a breakthrough. When I have a breakthrough, what's the downside of that? And so I went to like some of the specific ones and seeing like what was the downside of having that specific breakthrough in my life. What did I stop doing? Oh, one breakthrough was I stopped actually exercising because I used to have exercising quite high on my values list. And the moment I had a breakthrough on like having abs or whatever, or that infatuation with wanting it, I stopped exercising completely. And I stopped going to the gym in the morning and I started to eat more junk food. And so I just started to do that with like different sets of breakthroughs that I had to be able to say that.
Okay. I was also curious about there's this idea that like whoever has the most certainty rules the game sort of thing, but like there's like I'm curious what's the difference between like pseudo certainty and certainty because there's like a lot of people who claim that they're certain are stupid as shit, so it's trying to understand, I guess, the difference between that, like what is actually, if you had an idea about that as well.
I agree with that. I agree with the person that has the most certainty rules. And that certainty comes from knowing both sides. And it's when you have a breakthrough and you just know, but there's no need for words to express that you know. It's just that feeling that you have like it's not a lopsided perception inside you or a lopsided feeling. It's you had a breakthrough with whatever the perception was, and you just know. You've experienced it and you just know. That to me is that certainty. There's no need for words.
Okay. Another random one is like
Because there's a difference between confidence and certainty. When you're confident, there's the other side of it where you're not confident. You're projecting more than you are.
right.
That certainty is just there's no need for words.
Okay. You also mentioned Chinese text. I was curious if you, this is just a random thing on a subset, if you knew any Chinese translation services for random Chinese books that aren't in ebook or anything. No.
No, no, I
Okay.
don't.
No.
But I don't know if you've read Chuang Tzu. I really
Yeah.
like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great writer.
Yeah.
I love how he talks about effortless action. That really resonated with me. And the piece where he talks about how like no one goes to a running river to find a reflection. People go to a still river to find a reflection. And I find that this work as a coach, doing the work, having a still mind, allows for greater workings with people and
Okay.
allows you to be in that mirror for other people.
Thank you.
You're welcome. John Paul.
Second round. So you mentioned that you made list, you made those 3-hour walks where you would list the charges and the judgments that you hold to identify those. The piece that I'm curious about is which charge, or if there is still a charge that you're totally aware of, but you've consciously chosen not to dissolve.
Huh. What charge do I still have that I'm conscious of that I haven't collapsed? Yes.
In that you're currently choosing not to collapse. Yep.
I would say components of infatuation with John. I would I would definitely say that there's components there of how he speaks. I haven't done that yet, or even uh, there's that. There's also certain money charges that I'm just starting to work on now. Um, that I just left it there on the side until now when the webinar is happening and the breakthrough experience, now it's coming up and there's more of a purpose to connect it and to work through it. I would say that there's that. Yeah.
So it sounds like if you don't see a purpose for it, you just leave it there for now and you're just waiting for the opportunity to go for that.
Yes. Unless there's a period of time where I'm not doing anything and I just want to explore it, I would leave it there.
Okay. Thank you.
There is a question in the chat from Oscar. So Oscar's asking if we're not responsible for our clients reaching a breakthrough, the intents are more in charge of that, or how you put it before. What do you see is your biggest role contribution when working with other clients that are paying you?
Being present with them and holding them accountable. And I do my best. I'll do my best to like prompt and help them explore and just offer like different scenarios where it could be. And that's my job as well, right? To come up with these prompts that can help maybe open up the expand their awareness with it. But then the 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 responsibility I felt in the past is different to the responsibility that I feel now. Whereas over there, I felt like I had to do more after the call. Now it's more like, okay, I've done my best in the call, be present. I'll do the collapse on myself if I need to. Um, and then I just leave it at that for them. Does that answer the question? Yeah, I do.
Just have a really quick question for you, Trung, and it's around your money charge. I know it might feel free to choose powerfully how you answer this. What specifically is your money charge? Is it that like you're spending too much money or not making enough money?
Yeah. So my current charge at the moment that I worked on this morning was I've had this idea, I've had this like conversation in my mind or like a mantra, not a mantra, but like the judgment of burning money, wasting money and burning money. You know, like, oh, I'm wasting money again, or I'm burning money again. So this morning I went to explore it, and I found that, yeah, it actually tied in with my mum and dad. And
Mm,
my
mm,
mum and my dad telling my mum my memory in the kitchen, oh, you're wasting money again. You're buying too many groceries. And then
mm.
I'm telling my mum, oh, you're wasting money. You're buying too many groceries, things like that. So I worked on that this morning, had a 6 and 13, but then some of the benefits that came out of it. And now that has opened up more doors for me to explore in terms of my other charges that I have with finances and feeling uncomfortable that there's like certain components where I feel like I didn't manage it still as well.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just opened up more doors of how I'm currently managing it. And now it's
Got
time to
it.
work through that. But it's kind of like ripped off the band-aid and now new charges have started to appear with it.
Yeah,
But that's
beautiful, Trung.
something I was
Beautiful.
avoiding a lot, like how to manage my money, like in certain areas.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So relatable too, like the burning of the money.
yes.
And it's funny because it's funny that you share that specifically because there's no coincidence that it's coming up for example, me, like to a T. And so I've gained some insights from your share. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Have a look at
Yeah.
where did you get that idea of burning money from? Because I didn't realize it was my parents until today when I looked at it and I was pushed back with it. But
By burning, you mean spending, right?
ending like wasting money, wasteful money.
Yeah, yeah,
And my
that.
dad would say that. Like, no,
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
welcome.
Thanks, John, for tonight. Some of the people in the room right now are new to the Mind Gym. Some of you guys have been in here for a while. I'd love to get your response in the chat. How did you find tonight's session? It was a little bit of a different setup with the live podcast. Put your thoughts in the chat. We can get some feedback. If you guys enjoy it, then we can create some more like this. Some other announcements for the Mind Gym. For those that are new to the Mind Gym, you guys know that we have the WhatsApp group chat, which you're familiar with. We also do classes in the Mind Gym as well. Right now, we're doing a class on owning the traits of the grades, which is just about to finish up. Shortly, we're considering doing another class for facilitators. the way we like to run it is we put the idea out to the group, and if there's demand for it, we run the class. If there's not demand for that class, we run a different class. One of the ones that we're considering upcoming, we've done before, it's a facilitator training. It's called Advanced Facilitator. And it's for people that have done the Demartini Method training and you've gone out into the world and now you're on your own working with it. And you want to get some further guidance. And so this class runs every Tuesday evening, I think, Dom, Tuesday or Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Melbourne time. And basically it's you're in a group with others, you're learning the intricacies, the specifics of applying the method, and then you're going to breakout rooms, you're practicing with the other facilitators. So it's a great way, once you've done your intensive DMTP training and you're then out there on your own, every week you're jumping on the call, you're learning new specifics of how to do the method, you're bringing your questions from the clients you've worked with that week onto the call, and then you're also practicing what you're learning in the breakout rooms with other facilitators. So I wanted to let you guys know that that's a training that we're considering running. If you're interested in something like that and you're a facilitator, you're wanting to upskill, message us privately or put it in the chat. And if there's demand for it, we'll run it. I've got a few people that are interested. And then we've also got some other upcoming classes as well. But I just want to get a response on that one if you're interested. Dom, anything else you want to cover off?
Great. Yeah. So thanks. That was the advanced facilitating class that Andy's talking about. So if you want to refer to it as that when you're messaging him so he knows. Yeah. Trung, is there anything that you'd like to share with everyone, or would everyone like to bring themselves off mute if they'd like to share anything with Trung before we all log off tonight?
I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming in and sharing this moment. And thank you both of you for hosting it. It was really cool.
Thanks for the first
That was
person.
really generous.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Tom and Andy.
Thanks, Trung. Brilliant. And Andy and Dom too.
You guys are very grounded and present as, like really, really present.
I really loved it. I loved hearing all of the questions and answers, and Dom and Andy, great job. And Trung, thank you for being so open with us. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you in the WhatsApp chat and keep you updated with some more of these live podcasts. So have a beautiful night or
Thanks,
day.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much.